This is Ahval Online, meeting point of accurate news and free comment on the current affairs of Turkey. Welcome to our podcast series.
Hello, dear Ahval audience. Here we are again here at Ahval's 12 minutes program from Washington, in fact, with Aykan Erdemir, who is Senior Director of the Turkey program at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Today, we will talk about the Halkbank case trial, which is going on in the US and in the US court. And as you know, the Halkbank appeal to Supreme Court. So we will talk about it, what will happen next, and will Erdogan regime benefit from this? So welcome, Mr. Erdemir, to the program.
Thank you for having me.
What do you think about Halkbank's appeal to the US Supreme Court? What are the latest developments?
Now, this is the latest of the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's delay tactics. Ultimately, for the Erdogan regime, this is a potentially embarrassing case, especially if it makes it to a jury trial in the Southern District of New York court. And at this stage, since Halkbank exhausted all the appeals at the US Appeals Court for the Second Circuit, the last possible delay tactic the Turkish public lender could have used was the Supreme Court appeal. And we were expecting this tactic to be utilized, but a crucial question was whether the appeals court would allow Halkbank to stop the case while the Supreme Court appeal is continuing. And that is actually what the court ruled for. That is, the Southern District of New York court will have to stay the case. So the jury trial is now suspended until Halkbank's appeal is resolved at the Supreme Court.
So what about Erdogan regime's plans about it? I mean, will it get away with any punishment, any fees, or what the result can be? What are your estimations?
Now, at this point, there are two different possibilities. The first one is, which is often the case for most Supreme Court appeals, is that the Supreme Court will refuse to hear the case. Because each year, 6,000 to 7,000 cases make it to the Supreme Court. But the highest court in the United States often chooses to hear only 1% of these cases. Now, when I talked to some legal experts, they stated that given this case raises some important issues about the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, 4 out of 9 Supreme Court judges, which is the minimum required to hear a case, might eventually ask to hear the case. That is, there is 1/3 of possibility, they argued, that the Supreme Court would hear this case. So if that is the option, then we might be looking forward to a year to 2 years of a lengthy trial process. If the Supreme Court refuses to hear the case, then within a few months, the case will be back with the Southern District of New York. So that could then lend itself to a speedier jury trial. So I think from Erdogan's perspective, it would be a great win if the Supreme Court chooses to hear the case, even if ultimately, as most experts expect, Halkbank loses the case, because even then, the jury trial will be postponed until after Turkey's 2023 presidential and parliamentary elections, and Erdogan will not have to deal with all the embarrassing evidence and testimony that is resulting from the Halkbank jury trial in New York.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know how does Erdogan regime manage to kind of to be related in trials and cases in the US, but there's another ongoing case in the US courts. Earlier this month, Turkey also appealed to the Supreme Court in the Sheridan Circle case. Our listeners and audience will remember that Erdogan's bodyguards had attacked the peaceful protesters there. And then these bodyguards are still on trial. So what are the prospects of that appeal?
Now, when it comes to the Sheridan Circle case, which refers to this notorious case of peaceful protesters being assaulted by Erdogan's bodyguards, as well as some other, pro-Erdogan thugs in Washington, D.C., in front of the Turkish ambassador's residence, there were two different cases. One is criminal, which didn't go forward, and now there is a civil case brought by victims of this attack. So ultimately, Turkey again used delay tactics, trying to deny the jurisdiction of the United States, but ultimately it agreed to issue a defense. And when Ankara lost the case, they are now trying the Supreme Court as a last resort. But again, when I talk to experts here, legal experts, they agree that the Sheridan Circle case has extremely little chance of being heard in the Supreme Court. So this could ultimately be just a waste of the Turkish Republic's time and money. And within a few months, the civil case could be back on track, and Turkey can be forced to pay, some serious compensation to victims of this attack. Now, in contrast to the Sheridan Circle case, the Southern District of New York case against Halkbank is a criminal case. And that case, unlike the civil case here, might have serious ramifications, including a significant fine against Halkbank, including certain punitive measures against the Turkish public lender, which will either restrict or prevent it from carrying out business in the United States, including, financial transactions, taking loans, or wiring money. Now, that would then have serious consequences, not only for the bank itself, but also for the Turkish financial system, as there could be a contagion effect. That is, there could be a negative spillover from Halkbank first into other Turkish public lenders, namely Ziraat and Vakıf Bank, and then to private banks. Some even argue that this could have a contagion effect as the crisis, the financial crisis, spills over from Turkey as an emerging market to some of the European markets, which have until now ended up funding Turkey's financial sector through a series of syndication loans.
Mm-hmm. Also, there is another possibility of trial. Sezgin Baran Korkmaz, who is called a business person, but arrested in Austria. Both Turkey and the US had demands for his extradition. And the US just wants to try him for scamming the US Treasury in cooperation with some US citizens and business people. So is there any chance that there will be another trial that can put Turkey in trouble like the other two cases?
Definitely, but that depends on what ultimately the Austrian Justice Ministry decides to do. Because in an earlier hearing, the Wels court agreed to Turkey's extradition request. And last week, there was a report in Deutsche Welle Turkish service that the court ruled also to extradite Korkmaz to the United States. Now, Turkey denied that report, although what we are hearing is the court is very close to its final verdict and will release it shortly. So in the highly likely case that the court rules both to extradite Korkmaz to Turkey and the United States, the Austrian Minister of Justice will be responsible as the final arbiter. Now, if Korkmaz ends up in the United States, there will definitely be a criminal case concerning the embezzlement and tax evasion, mainly through the state of Utah. But beyond that, Korkmaz, to avoid a long prison sentence and a hefty fine, could turn state's witness, just like Reza Zarrab, the ringleader of Iran's sanctions evasion network in Turkey. Mm-hmm. And hence he can start confessing to the whole range of financial crimes he has been involved in, together with senior Turkish officials. If that is the case, then the Erdogan regime might then face a third embarrassing trial, which has the potential to expose all sorts of sanctions evasion, money laundering, gold smuggling allegations around Korkmaz's various dealings, not just in Turkey and Africa, but all the way in Venezuela. So I think that could also be really a landmark case concerning the Erdogan government in the United States.
Yeah, it seems that difficult days in terms of judicial process is waiting for Turkey and the Erdogan regime. Yes, Mr. Erdemir, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You can follow Ahval News Online podcast series through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, and Spreaker. All you need to know about Turkey is here, for your ears, mind, and attention. Thank you for listening to our podcast.